Hello, Professor John.
Good evening, good morning.
Good evening there. Good morning here.
Is that you, Inda? There?
Yeah, it is me. Yeah,
Oh,
it is. Can you hear my voice clearly?
yes, I'm going to turn you up a little bit here.
Okay.
My ears are pretty good, but I want to hear you even better.
Okay.
Now, are you in Brisbane, Inda, or where are you?
Yes, I'm in Brisbane now.
I was just thinking how amazing this is. When I was little, it was hard to make a telephone call from Nebraska to California. And now here we are all over the world talking. That's pretty neat. That really is pretty neat.
Across the globe, right, Prof?
Yes, it is. It's wonderful.
Yeah. How are you and Nikki?
We're doing real well. Yeah, the coronavirus hit the family, but our one daughter and her husband and our 12-year-old granddaughter got the coronavirus last week, but they're getting better, even though it looks like our daughter, who's 46, she's lost her voice. Which did you know that you can lose your voice with the coronavirus?
I didn't. I just got
There's
like a fever cough when I got it.
there's so many different symptoms that you can get hit with, and one is you lose your voice, and she could be whispering for a month or 6 weeks, and so it's just it's crazy. But she seems to be going to be okay, but it's just going to take a long time. Yeah, so that's a long answer that we're okay, but we have challenges like your family and every other family in the world, right? So that's
really stubborn there, right?
yes, yeah, it's really just all over.
Yeah, some of my family in Jakarta also gets COVID for like second times or probably like third times. So yeah. It's still there.
Yeah. Have the vaccines gotten all over Indonesia now or covered?
Yeah, the vaccines we have like probably the third and I think the fourth also in Indonesia, because also in here in Brisbane we got the first vaccines. And I think mostly Indonesian get the vaccines, 80% probably. But yeah, it is not strong enough. I got COVID after I got my third vaccine. No, we're really stubborn.
Our daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter, they got it after I think they'd had 4 shots. But the argument is that, well, you didn't get it as bad as you could have gotten it, is the argument. So, and I'll go with that. I got my 5th shot 2 days ago. They have a third booster for older people. And for people like Nikki who are older and immunocompromised. And so Nikki will be getting she's getting a third monoclonal antibody shot tomorrow. And so that'll be 6 shots she's gotten.
Oh my God.
But we don't know if she's safe. They don't have any tests to know if the shots actually work for her. So we cross our fingers.
Yeah, you just do our best and pray.
Yeah. That's the way life always is. I'm trying to make your picture big on my screen here. There's always so many buttons, and so I click them at random. A second ago, you were big on the screen, and now you're small on the screen. But I'll never learn this perfectly, I'm sure.
In the right corner, upper right corner, there's
upper right,
and then choose speaker.
Let's see. It says recording, custom live streaming service. Copy now. Whoa, now I lost you. So I'll bring you back. I forget, do you have any family in Brisbane with you, or are you all by yourself?
I'm by myself. My family is still in Pekanbaru.
Yeah. Yeah. And how you've been there how many months now?
Almost Sorry, it's 6 months. 6 months already.
Yeah, yeah. And how long? 3 years?
For 3.5 probably.
Does that, at the 6-month point, does that sound like forever?
Oh my God.
No.
After 4 months,
Hello,
here, I'm at home. After 4 months here, I'm at home. Right? Yeah, it is very hard to far away from the parents and the children's.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start, Rob. So the committee are ready.
Okay.
So gonna text you later, Prof. So I have you can find the right screen for your Zoom already.
Okay.
Okay. So the committee will start our.
Iza, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Let's pray and praise Allah for giving us some blessings and mercies. Salawat and salam to our beloved Muhammad by saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. The Honorable Guest, Rector of Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, Mr. Professor Dr. Khairunas Rajab, MAG, Dean of Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, Mr. Dr. Usnadi MPD, Dean of Faculty of Usuluddin and Religious Studies, Universitas Islam Negeri Imam Bonjol Padang, Mr. Dr. Andri Ashadi MAG, Dean of Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, Mr. Dr. Agus Abdurrahman MC Psikolog, Dean of Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Pajajaran, Mrs. Zahratul Rushdah Hinduan, SPCMOP PhD. Our keynote speaker from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, United States of America, Professor Dr. John Dufresne, BAMA, PhD. Mrs. Dr. Fitri Arianti Abidin, MPC Psikolog from Universitas Pajajaran, Indonesia. And Mrs. Indah Damayanti, MC Psikolog from Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau. Head of the committee and his staff and all of the incredible participants of this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to international webinar organized by Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau in collaboration with Universitas Islam Negeri Imam Bonjol Padang, Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, and Universitas Pajajaran, with the theme is strengthen positive values in family to create harmony in society. For your information, this webinar is attended by several participants from Pakistan, Australia, South Africa, and Malaysia. We would like to thank everyone for allocating time to attend this event. Let us start this webinar by reciting Basmalah. Before we start this event, we will do a photo session. Therefore, to all participants, I hope you would be able to activate the camera. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen a little prayer. Please welcome Mr. Ahmad Tohar, LCMA.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Hamdan na'imin, hamdan syakirin, hamdan yuafi ni'amahu wa yukafi mazidah. Allahumma rabbana lakal hamdu wa lakal fadlu wa lakal syukru kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika wa azimi sultanik. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammadin salatan tunjina biha min jamil ahwali wal afat wa taqdi lana biha min jamil hajat wa tutahhiruna biha min jami' sayyi'at wa tarfa'una indaka 'ala ad-darajat wa tuballighuna biha aqsal ghayat min jamil khairat fil hayat wa ba'da al-mamat. Allahumma rabbana inna nas'aluka mujibati rahmatik wa azaima maghfiratik wal ghanimata min kulli birr was salamata min kulli ism wal fawza bil jannati wan najati min an-nar. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم ربنا يا الله ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم يا الله اللهم اجعل تجمعنا هذا تجمعا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعدها تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل منا شكيا ولا محروما. يا أرحم الراحمين ارحمنا يا أرحم الراحمين ارحمنا ويا أكرم الأكرمين أكرمنا بكرمك يا الله يا رب العالمين. ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ولا تجعل منا متشابها فنتبع الهوى. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم ربنا اصلح لنا في ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا واصلح لنا في دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا واصلح لنا في آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير والموت راحة لنا من كل شر بفضلك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا لا سهل إلا ما جعلته فسهل أمورنا. ربنا لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا فسهل أمورنا كما سهلت على كثير من عبادك الصالحين. ربنا جملنا بالعافية والسلام وحققنا بالتقوى والاستقامة وعيدنا من موجبة الندامة يوم القيامة إنك سميع الدعاء. ربنا بارك لنا في علمنا بارك لنا في علمنا وبارك لنا في عمرنا وبارك لنا في استماعنا هذا يا الله وبارك لنا في سائر أيامنا وبارك لنا في كل ما أعطيتنا. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وارحمهم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you to Mr. Ahmad bin Tohar LCMA. With much honor, to welcome his speech, would you please welcome Mr. Professor Edi Erwan, SPT PhD, as the Vice Rector for Students Affairs, Partnership and Alumni of Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau. Time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this MC. Could you hear my speak?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Professor John DeFran, the Professor Emeritus of Family Studies, University of Nebraska Lincoln, United States of America. Dr. Fitri A. Abidin, MPSI Psikolog, the lecturer at the Faculty of Psychology, Pajajaran University, Indonesia. Indah Damayanti, MPSI Psikolog, as the lecturer at the Faculty of Psychology, UIN Riau, and currently as the PhD student at Central Queensland University, Australia. Deans of Psychology Faculty of UIN Riau, Dr. Kusnadi MPD, and the faculty members, lecturers, and all our students, and distinguished guests, participants of this international webinar from several countries, including Pakistan, South Africa, Australia, and New Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On this special occasion, let us to offer our praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for it with his mercy and blessing that we can gather in this occasion to attend on this international webinar. First of all, on behalf of our university, State Islamic Sultan Syarif Kasim, Riau, I am honored and pleased to have your attendance today through this Zoom meeting, and also would like to extend my warm welcome to our speakers today, Prof. John DeFran, Dr. Fitri A. Abidin, MPSI Psikolog, and Indah Damayanti, MPSI Psikolog. UIN of Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau is one of the oldest Islamic universities in Indonesia under the Ministry of Religious Affairs. As one of the leading Islamic universities in the country, UIN Riau now has developed numerous disciplines with 54 studies programs under the 8 faculties and postgraduate programs, including Master Psychology. I would like to know that this webinar is held by Faculty of Psychology, UIN Riau, in collaboration with UIN Imam Bonjol Padang, UIN Gunung Jati Bandung, and Pajajaran University. Furthermore, it is also a part of the 20th anniversary of the Faculty of Psychology, UIN Riau. By conducting this important webinar, we do expect that Psychology Faculty of UIN Riau will be leading to achieve the vision and mission of the university by integrating knowledge, science, and art with Islamic teaching as the core values of UIN Riau. We believe that the topic addressed and highlighted issues by our keynote speakers and some other presenters will contribute to a lot to the achievement of university vision, as well as for strengthen positive values in the family to create harmony in society. Therefore, to our faculty members, especially students, could gain more important knowledge from this international webinar and practice them to improve our well-beings. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to extend warm welcome and thank you for Prof. John DeFran and other speakers for sharing your brilliant talk through this international webinar. I do hope that This event will become a good entry point to better understanding about crucial issues on psychology, especially for strengthen positive values in family and create harmony in society. This webinar is also hoped to give more opportunities to build an international collaboration with your university in various academic areas in the coming future. May Allah grant His blessing in our every effort to lead and achieve this vision. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Mr. Ahmadil Mohar, LCM. Sorry. Thank you to Mr. Professor Edi Erwan, SPT, PhD, for your delightful speech. Now, we proceed to the main point. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the first speaker from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, United States of America, Professor Dr. John Dufresne, BAMA, PhD, by a moderator, Mrs. Noraini Azizah, MA Psych. The CV of the moderator, her name is Noraini Azizah, MA Psych, is an assistant professor of psychology. She is also a doctoral student at the Political Psychology Laboratory, Universitas Indonesia. She is passionate about positive psychology and psychology of peace. She completed her bachelor degree majoring psychology at UIN Sunan Gunung Jati, Bandung, and Islamic education at Sayapata Al Jawabi. She earned her Master of Arts in Psychology with first-class honors from the University of Auckland, New Zealand, was an LPDP awardee, and currently working with Peace Generation developing research instruments as part of radicalism prevention program in higher education. Also working with International NGO Forum on Indonesian development, developing an academic paper as part of intervention program for ISIS deportees and returnees. Azizah co-founded Kasim, a Sudanese diaspora community, Modifia, a behavior consultancy startup, and Methodia, a platform connecting Indonesian researchers. Azizah and her husband Sofian have 2 daughters and 1 son. And to Mrs. Noraini Azizah, MA Psych, time is yours.
Thank you very much for the Master of Ceremony. Okay, good morning here in Indonesia and good afternoon, Professor Dufresne.
Good morning.
Yeah, maybe before we begin, I will introduce first for the session and tell some house rules here in the session, if it's okay. Okay, sure thing. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noraini Azizah, and I will be moderating this session. This is the first session of the international webinar team, Strengthen Positive Values in the Family to Create Harmony in Society. And the first speaker is Professor John Dufresne, PhD, from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, USA. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes for the webinar participants. When available, please activate your camera and use the visual background provided. You can also mute your microphone. If you have any questions for the speakers, please use the chat feature in this Zoom webinar or raise your hand. Now let's please welcome our first speaker, Professor Dufresne. Before that, I would like to read his short bio first. Professor Dufresne is a Professor Emeritus of Family Studies in the Department of Child, Youth, and Family Studies, College of Education and Human Sciences. His professional focus has been the development of couple and family strengths on the local, national, and international levels. Professor Dufresne's research on family strengths and challenges from a global perspective has been recognized around the world. He holds an honorary appointment as conjoint professor of family studies at the University of Newcastle, Callaghan, New South Wales, Australia. Has served as a research scientist in the Center for Family Studies, Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences, People's Republic of China. Received an Onassis Foundation Fellowship to work at Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Greece. Pardon if I talk it wrongly. Was a Fulbright scholar at the University of the South Pacific in Suva, Fiji. Has consulted with the Department of Family Development of the federal government of Mexico and other Mexican organizations. Has worked with the EMMA Foundation in Romania, helping to develop programs for families whose child has died. Conducted research on family strengths and challenges in Qatar, Jordan, and Tunisia with the Doha International Family Institute in Qatar, and is currently working with Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, on investigations into how families use their inherent strengths to deal effectively with the global pandemic. Professor Dufresne co-founded the International Family Strengths Network to encourage research, community initiatives, and continuing discussion about couple and family strengths around the world. John and his wife Nikki, of 53 years, have 3 daughters, 3 sons-in-law, and 4 grandchildren. The global pandemic has tested everyone in the extended family. Now let's please welcome our speaker, Professor Dufresne. Time is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. It's wonderful to be with you folks. I've had an Indonesian connection since 2016 when I started working with Gajah Mada University folks in Jogja on a study of Indonesian family strengths. And I didn't know anything about Indonesian families or Indonesian family strengths in 2016, but I've learned a lot in the last 6 years. And of course, the Indonesians knew how to do the research in their culture. And so we were a good team. And so it's delightful to be here with you this morning for you and this evening for me, because every chance I get to talk with Indonesians, I always love it a great deal. It's always a lot of fun for me. So I'm going to talk some and lay out what we've found about strong families and the strengths of families around the world. And I'll talk about how we use our strengths to meet the challenges that every family faces in the world. So strong families, family strengths and challenges will be the focus here. I've got a PowerPoint to kind of lay out the research, which goes back. We've been at this for 45 years. When I started working on this research, I had beautiful black hair and I was a young and very handsome man. Now I'm 75 years old, but I still love to do the research because it gives me a chance to meet fine people all over the world. So do you folks, do you have the PowerPoint to project here so I can talk from that? That'll make it a lot easier for folks to understand me, because you folks are probably a lot better understanding English than I am in understanding the many different languages in Indonesia. So it's delightful for me to be able to communicate in English, and delightful that you can read English probably very well. So could you put up the PowerPoint presentation?
Sure thing. Please wait a minute, Professor Dufresne. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. And I'll talk a little bit about each slide. I don't know, there aren't a whole lot of slides, but I'll talk about it. Then if I can just go beep and change from number 1 to number 2, it'll be a very high-tech beep I'll give you, and then we'll move on. I just want to emphasize, here are the details of who I am again. And at the bottom, it has my email address. And it may sound funny, but I'm really good at email. I grew up as a a journalist, as a newspaper reporter, and as a writer. And so it's easy for me to type and work on email. And so if anybody has questions or comments or thoughts, I love to get email from around the world and make friends that way. I think that's how India and I got connected via email. And so if you have any interesting ideas or questions, be free to email at my Yahoo email account. I'd love to talk with you. Okay, let's try the beep. Beep, high-tech beep. Perfect. This system is going to work great. We've been working on defining strong families and understanding family strengths, as I said, going back probably to about 1974. I got heavily involved in about 1977 with this research. And we did this because in the US, in the middle 70s, the divorce rate in the US had just shot up dramatically. From the late 1960s to the mid 1970s, the divorce rate just increased dramatically to the point that about 1 in 2 marriages were ending in divorce at that time. It's not much less today. Maybe it's about 43% of marriages in the US end in divorce today. The government got so demoralized about the divorce rate in this country, which is the highest in the world as far as we know. They got so demoralized by the divorce rate, they stopped collecting statistics on it about 10 or 12 years ago. We just don't like to talk about it. So I got involved because I was a young married father at that time when I got involved in this research. Nikki and I had our first child and had another one on the way. And so as a young professor of family studies, I thought, what more interesting question would there be than to talk about what are strong families? How do we create good, healthy, happy families? How do we do that? And we do this in how we started, and we still today, we interview family members all around the world now. We've worked with teams of people. There's probably been 200 researchers, something like that, over the 45 years that we've worked with on these studies. We've studied families in 38 countries, I think, at last count. We've studied families. We've about 30,000 family members or more have been involved in these studies over the years. I stopped counting a few years ago. I just couldn't keep track. And we can't do the research without having beautiful bonds of friendship with people all around the world. We can help them and they can help us better understand families. We basically ask the families to talk about their strengths and how they use their strengths to meet the inevitable challenges in life. This is a perfect time. That's a funny way to say it. During the global pandemic, it's an awful time. It's an awful time all over the world, but it also is a perfect time for researchers and counselors and educators to get involved in studying the strengths of families and seeing how families are using their strengths today to deal with the terrible realities of the pandemic, the death and destruction of lives and the pain and the grief. We need to work on this together and better understand. Beep. Next slide here. Yeah. Our research team, as I mentioned, for years and years, we've been doing this. And what we found, the first time I saw this, was that family strengths are amazingly, remarkably similar from one country to another. The first time I saw this was 40 years ago when we were doing some studies in Latin America. We were working on surveys of strong families as they defined themselves in 12 Latin American countries. And we started getting questionnaire data back from all over South America and Central America. And these data, these surveys were coming back to the middle of America in the United States. And my research colleague was a young Colombian young woman, Constanza Casas from Bogota, Colombia. And she ran into my office one day and she said, John, the people all over Latin America, all over South America are talking about the same family strengths that you talk about here in America. And I said, Constanza, that can't be possible. They're different from us. They eat different food. They speak a different language. They dance to different music. How could they have the same strengths in families in South America and Latin America? And so I said, Constanza, go back to your office and go through the data carefully. She had mountains and mountains and mountains of questionnaire data. I said, go back through it and just straighten this out. Well, she came back a couple weeks later and she says, no, it's true. They talk about the same things that make their families healthy and happy as we do here in America. Now, family structures around the world can be very, very different, of course. You have large extended families, you have small nuclear families, you have countless other ways of organizing a family from a structural viewpoint. In our study of Australia back 20 years ago, we advertised all over Australia for strong families. And then one of the questions we asked them was, write down and describe the structure of your strong family. And the Australians described 31 different structures for their families. So the structure doesn't tell you if it's a strong family or not, because the families come in so many structures: extended family, nuclear family, single parent family, two-parent family, on and on and on, just countless mix of families. And you get strong families from very, very different structures. So when you're talking with families, if you know the structure of the family, that doesn't give you any clue whatsoever whether they're a strong family or not. Structure doesn't tell you that. These families also live in many different environments. They live in cities, in towns, in villages, on the seacoast, in the mountains, hot climates, cold climates, all around the world. The environment affects how the family survives and how they work together. Of course it does, but it doesn't determine their strengths. Let's look at the next slide. Can you get it? Aha, perfect. Okay, here's the heart of the matter. This will sound funny, but it took years and years and years, and talking to literally thousands of people around the world to come up with this one slide. So please focus on it here a little bit with me, because this is the heart of the matter. We've got a good idea now of what makes families strong around the world. And we've found these 6 broad qualities in every culture we've dealt with. And we've purposely dealt with Western cultures. We've purposely dealt with Eastern cultures. We've purposely dealt with rich countries. We've purposely dealt with countries without much money. That's why Nikki and I and a couple of our daughters, 3 daughters, we went to Fiji and lived there for half a year, working with the Fijians. Very, very different island culture compared to the middle of the United States and the Great Plains where we came from. And we went there 30 years ago this year because we wanted to see if these ideas made any sense to such a very different culture as the Fijian culture in the middle of the Southwest Pacific. And they looked very similar in many, many ways in terms of their family dynamics. They didn't look similar in terms of their skin color or how much money they had or the villages they lived in. We lived in a small village. They looked very, very different in 1,000 ways from where we were from. But the way their families loved and cared for each other were something that Nikki and I and our kids understood immediately. We spoke the same language as they did when it came to family strengths. And that was a lovely finding. So here are 6 major qualities of strong families around the world. Now, the theory is much more complex than that. And at the end of this talk, I'll give you some ideas if you want to dig in deeper. But we have an instrument, a family strengths inventory that measures family strengths. And you could go online for free and get it. It's called the American Family Strengths Inventory, but it works all over, and you could adapt it to your own culture in Sumatra or in South Africa or wherever you are, and it would make perfect sense to you, and you could look at the strengths of your own family, and you can fill it out in about 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes. It's free. We don't even know you're using it. It's just the University of Nebraska website, and it has about 85 questions on it. And almost all the questions will fit your particular culture. And some of the questions, you'll have to change them a little bit to fit Sumatran culture or Chinese culture or wherever. But it works remarkably well all over because of our similarities. So the 6 qualities are appreciation and affection for each other, positive communication, commitment to the family, enjoyable time together, a sense of spiritual well-being and shared values. And I think you folks in your university, which is a faith-based university, you'll understand all this perfectly. And then number 6, and these are in no particular order. One's not more important than the other. They're all kind of like this. They're all together. If you got number 1 and number 2 in your family, it's very likely you'll have 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. They all fit together. And number 6 is the ability to manage stress and crisis effectively. Obviously, if you're going to call them strong families, they've got to have the strength to get through life, which is tough all over the world. It's difficult to survive these days, and it always has been for human beings. Let's go on to the next slide. This one's really fun. This is one of the neat things you can do right today in your family is express appreciation and affection for each other. In many cultures, such as a lot of parts of American culture, we're kind of serious, and we're kind of serious like this, and it's hard to express our emotions and our feelings in some parts of American culture. I grew up in a German American culture, which was pretty kind of solemn a lot of the time. But the strong families, the ones who really love and care for each other, know how to reach out and enjoy each other's company and hugs and kisses and kind words that shows they care for each other. Friendship is another part of appreciation and affection. Nikki and I are working on a series of books about our own family and about our own couple relationship. We fell in love when we were 15 years old, and here we are at age 75. We've been what we say is best friends with each other for 60 years. And that is one of the best definitions I've seen around the world of a solid, positive couple relationship, is that the couple have found a way to be best friends with each other. That's not easy to do sometimes because we come, when we get together in marriage, we come from different cultures, different family cultures, different personalities, but to develop a best friendship is a remarkable thing. There's a respect for individuality also. Nikki, who's in the living room tonight in our home, she would say that she and her husband, John, are very, very different people. And that's what brought us together in a lot of ways. I thought she was just a cute, beautiful young girl, and she thought I was a cute young guy. And then we learned we had a lot more qualities than just the way we looked. We liked each other's personalities, and but our personalities were different. Our views of the world were different. And we learned how to respect our differences and to see them as a strength. Part of appreciation and affection is playfulness and humor. We've had a doctoral dissertation done on humor in strong families, and the doctoral student who was a minister, he was a Lutheran minister here in the US, he argued that strong families a lot of the times are funny families. They like to joke and play and have fun and tease and just like the picture shows, express affection. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Yeah, this is Theodore and Alexandros. These are a couple of friends from ours in Thessaloniki, Greece, and they have a lovely family. Positive communication is an incredibly important family strength. Again, focusing on the positive. All families communicate. Some of them do it better than others. Nikki likes to remind me that her father was an alcoholic and he communicated. He didn't use a lot of words. He wasn't talkative, but his anger and his demeanor and his rough, gruff expressions on his face, he communicated that way. But that was communication for control. And that wasn't positive communication when you're trying to develop and maintain a loving relationship with everyone in your family. You're not trying to beat them in some kind of contest or beat them up like he tried sometimes. You're trying to embrace each other and love each other. And you do this by giving compliments. You do this by sharing feelings, which is very, very difficult to do in American families. Talking with an Indonesian friend this morning, she was arguing that in a lot of Indonesian families, she sees they have a hard time sharing their feelings, of being open, emotionally open with each other. I think this is kind of almost a global challenge we face. We learn as little kids to be kind of fearful on the playground. You got to be careful. You might get beat up or bullied. You might get pushed around by your big sister or big brother. And so we learn to kind of hunker down and hide. And that leads to huge problems in communication in our families. Positive communication means avoiding blame instead of trying to find out who made a mess and who caused this mess and how can we punish them. That doesn't do anything. That's a waste, a total waste of time. Forget the blame and just go to how can we work together to get out of this mess that we got into. It's not all that important to say, you made the mess. It's important to say, how can we all work together and show our love by solving this problem? That's very hard to do, but lots of strong families do it all over the world. Being able to compromise is essential because we're different. We have different views on everything. We have different views on the food we like to eat. We have different views about politics. We have different views about color and clothing and style. We have different views about the books we read and the music we listen to. We have different views about religion, and religion tears a lot of families apart in America. And I would guess it tears a lot of families apart in every country around the world. And we've got to find ways to compromise to agree to disagree, to see some good in other people's ideas in our family, to better understand them, not to try to fix them, because you can't fix other family members. I've never seen anyone successfully fix their husband. I've watched this for years. You can't fix your husband, and you can't fix your wife, and you can't fix your mother. You can't fix your father. You can't fix your siblings. You've got to learn to live with them in positive ways, and they're just different than you. Okay, the next one. Commitment to the family, trust, honesty, dependability, faithfulness, sharing. This is absolutely critical. If you break the trust in the family, and people do this every day, they make the mistake. If you break this trust, it's hard to get it back. You'll probably never get it back. And so the best you can do is to live a trustful, faithful life and not do it again, You'll always be on probation if you break the trust, if you break the commitment. You'll always be on probation, and you should be. But the relationship can go on. Some of the biggest disasters in families, I've seen many families go through all kinds of problems where they broke trust in some way or another, where they were dishonest in some way or another, where they were undependable. But they go on, they find ways to go on. Commitment to the family. In some families I've talked to, it's interesting. Some families will say, I'm committed to my family. My family is the most important thing in the world to me. And I think that's wonderful. When I hear that, I think that's absolutely wonderful. I'll hear other people in families, and I'm sure you hear this in Indonesia today when you're talking with people. An Indonesian family member or every other country around the world, they'll say, my commitment is to God, Allah, whatever name we use. There are many names. My commitment is to something greater than me. And then they'll talk about their family and they'll say, but I have a tremendous commitment to their family. And it's almost like when I listen to them with my heart, what I hear them saying is their commitment to God, Allah, Jehovah, whoever, is so important, and their commitment to their family is almost like their commitment to God. It's almost together like this. And that's really quite lovely to hear that when people talk that way. And I've heard it many times, and I'm sure you've heard it many times too. It's a lovely thing. Okay, the next one. Enjoyable time together is an area where I think some cultures do better than others in different family strengths. And I won't make any judgments about Indonesia because I don't know much about your culture, even though I've worked with some of your folks for 6 years, but I don't know much at all. But in American culture, enjoyable time together may be one of the strengths that we find hardest to do well at, because we have kind of a cultural history of being go, 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 zoom, 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 work, 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 money, 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 material things, material things, material things. And when I see other cultures maybe emulating US culture, this is one of the things I start to worry about, is they may focus so much on a new television set or a new iPhone or a new iPad or a new whatever. They may spend so much time trying to get enough money to have those things that they may, and pardon me for saying it, but sometimes people flush their family down the toilet. That's a crude way of saying it, but they go grasping after material things to the expense of their family. So we talk about quality time in great quantity. there was a movement about 25 years ago where some author was saying, oh, you can have quality time in the family and you don't have to spend a lot of time with your family. And one book was written say, well, if you spend a really quality minute, every once in a while with your children, that could be really marvelous. And when I read that book, I thought that's disgusting. But there was this idea that well, if you just really do nice things for a brief moment, then everything will be fine in your family. Well, that's a lie. And the way to prove it's a lie, you say to yourself, what if I went to the boss and said, boss, I'm going to give you quality time today. Not much time, but it'll be really high quality time. And the boss would fire you. And families, might think of firing you too if you try to get away with having a happy family by not investing any time. Enjoying each other's company, simple good times. We found over the years, families with not much money can have a lot of fun and good times together. It doesn't cost a lot of money to have enjoyable time in your family. This is something that high-income families can do, low-income families can do. Sharing fun together, outside, playing, these are all cheap things to do. In fact, as far as we can tell over the years, we've never found a relationship between having a lot of money and family strengths. There's a lot of really rich people who don't have very good families. And there's low-income people that have really good families. I think, realistically speaking, to be a healthy, strong family, you have to have basic needs met, basic housing needs met, basic employment needs met, basic food needs met, basic needs. But as you get more and more money, and just pile up more and more money, your happiness, neither your happiness nor your strength as a family seem to increase dramatically as far as we can see. It's something different than money that drives family strengths for sure. Okay, let's go to number 5. Spiritual well-being and shared values. A sense of hope, a sense of faith. Some family members around the world express this as a faith in God, a faith in Allah, a faith in Yahweh, a faith in, the countless different words we use to talk about God, a faith in each other, a sense of compassion. I think of compassion as faith in action. Many strong families, many families with significant strengths are members of organized religions, whether it would be Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, on and on and on and on. There in the US alone, I looked the other day, I think we have something like 378 different religious sects. And so I know with my heart that there are strong families and good people in all 378 of those sects. And many, many people around the world, countless people around the world get strength and a sense of hope from being a member of a formal religious group. And there are others who also find strength in their own personalized views of what's good in the world. These are families that we talk about, and we see this all over the world. They have important values that drive them in their life that are just deeply spiritual, personal values. In my family, we place high value on compassion and service in the world. All of our daughters are active in different service groups and service organizations to help other people, other families. In our family, we also are almost, it'll sound funny, maybe, I can't say nature worshipers, but we love the outdoors and we see God when we're out walking in the woods, when we're walking along a stream. Nikki and I are going to go on a trip in 2 weeks, and we'll spend much of the trip visiting dear friends that we've known for years and years and years. And we'll spend much of the trip outdoors, enjoying nature, and as we would say, talking with God. So there's many ways to do this. You'll see many of the strong family members around the world will talk about a sense of oneness with humankind. And I think during the pandemic, that's been especially true. I've never, and I'm 75 years old, or 75 years young, maybe. But I've never seen a time in my life when something seemed to be hitting everybody in the world. This is just quite, it's not a blessing at all, but it's a remarkable time to be young, as so many of you folks are. You're younger than I am. And to be going through this, I've never seen a time where the whole world was being challenged by, we're being challenged by coronaviruses. And this stuns me. I looked this up on some scientific literature. The coronaviruses are so small. Look at the word hope. You see the word hope on the screen there? Hope, H-O-P-E. Okay, between the H and the O, the coronaviruses are so small that if you put them in a line, a straight line between the H and the O, a straight line, there would be 2,500 coronaviruses in that space between the H and the O. Now think about that. Those little guys are small, right? And those little guys have killed 1 million people in my country in the last 29 months. And they've killed Lord knows how many million people around the world. And they're killing people by the hundreds of thousands in Indonesia. And it's 2,500 little guys lined up between an H and an O. That is the worst nightmare tragedy movie Hollywood could ever come up with. I mean, you couldn't make up a worse movie than the one that we're all living together. We have to develop a sense of oneness with each other around the world, because we're all in the middle of a disaster that it's going to take the whole world to find answers to, you know. And you and I today and everybody else are right in the middle of it, and we're trying to find answers, and we're trying to help each other as best we can to get through this. Okay, number 6 then. The ability to manage stress and crisis effectively. Strong families are by their very nature adaptable, resilient. We're constantly asking when we interview families, talk about a crisis you've been through life. Describe what have you gone through it. Did you lose a child? That's one of the worst things that can happen. Have you gone through a divorce? Have you lost your job? You know, someone died recently. What are all the possibilities for disaster in families around the world is enormous. It's overwhelming. But the strong families, the families with significant strengths, are adaptable. They find ways to work together to deal with the crisis. They see the crisis in their family as both a challenge, but what you find when you talk with people who've gone through crises, and I've been doing this for 50 years, they'll always tell you something good that has come from this. They'll always tell you about good things that came from disaster. They won't tell you this the first day or the first week or the first month or the first 3 months or 6 months if it's a terrible crisis. But given the passage of time and their recovery, they'll talk about what they learned from this, and what they learned so often is they became stronger as a family. My family, we've had a difficult time with the coronavirus pandemic. Not a terrible time, but it's been a difficult time. Many of the members of the family, the young mothers, have been swamped trying to worry about the kids going to school, and the kids, when they homeschooled them, and sitting at the computer with a 5-year-old all day who doesn't want to sit at a 5-year-old doesn't want to sit at a computer all day. And the mother's trying to also be a university professor. And so, you know, all kinds of things going on in our family. A son-in-law got broadsided by a drunk driver on Sunday morning and almost killed, piled up with everything else going on. And so the family comes together and helps. We've got 12 people in the family. The 7-year-old can help, the 12-year-old can help, the 75-year-old can help. We're all on the phone. We're all on the Zoom because we don't live together, you know, really close, some of us. We're on the Zoom. My wife is texting. She's probably out texting with our daughters right tonight, talking about how was school today for our granddaughter, or you know, just all the different things. The families come together when they see a challenge, and they grow through the challenge together, and they come out stronger. And I've seen this hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times, talking with families over the last 50 years. They grow through crisis together. And your families are doing this right now today. I could sit down with any one of you. I'd love to sit down with all of you. It would take us a long time, but just to sit down with you and talk about your families, I know that good things are happening in response to these crises that we're facing. The strong families are open to change. I don't know what that was. They're open to change, and they're resilient. They can find a way to get through all this. Okay, the next slide. If you want to look deeper into what I've been talking about, because we've been writing about this for a long, long time, the most comprehensive book is called Strong Families Around the World. That came out in 2007. And in that book, it talks about family strengths and challenges in 18 countries around the world. I'm sure you can find that for free through an interlibrary loan service. And then and also you can just Google John Dufresne and you'll find all kinds of other sources, because there's all kinds of books on the internet that you can find through libraries for free. And then that American Family Strengths Inventory I talked about earlier, down at the bottom here, American Family Strengths Inventory, available for free on the University of Nebraska Extension website. And there's the web address there. As I said, you can go in there for free. You don't even have to identify yourself, I don't think. We wouldn't do that because this is all free. This is a US government agency. It's called Extension, University Extension, and it has the Family Strengths Inventory. It works for Americans, but it'll work fine. You'll get a kick out of it because it'll work fine for Indonesians. I know it because we used it as a basis for developing the Indonesian Family Strengths Inventory that the Gajah Mada folks, Diana Setiawati and her team at Gajah Mada are working on. And she just told me this morning that they should have an Indian Family Strengths Inventory out, Indonesian Family Strengths Inventory. They should have it out pretty soon. So that's if you want to look deeper at these ideas. And again, if you have any questions, then email me, and maybe it'll take me a couple days to respond, because I do get a lot of email, but I love to talk, and I'd be happy to talk with you on email too. So that's what I have to say. And I think we have about 15 minutes for questions, which I'd love to hear.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Prem, for the excellent presentation. For the webinar participants, if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. I will call on you to ask the question and please identify yourself. You can also put your question in the chat. Okay, Bibi Jan,
Yes.
you can ask the question.
Okay. Thank you, Professor, for the awesome sharing. I really enjoy your session. It's very, very enriching. And I would also like to take the opportunity to congratulate the organizing committee for doing a wonderful job. I think this topic on strengthening family is very, very important. More so now in the digital age. And now that even the definition of family have changed significantly. And I'm glad that our generation, I'm not much different than you, that we are about the same, we belong to the baby boomers. And I find that the new generation, the Z generations, they've got different orientation, different definition of family.
Yeah.
So I'm really so happy to know that if we can preserve, conserve, and this definition of family, I think, and cherish and shrine the institution of family, I think the world will be a beautiful place to live. Unfortunately now, people tend to have a different values. Family value is eroding slowly. And my concern is the new generation. Even I'm from Singapore. So I also see a lot of changes in Singapore. So worldwide, not just Singapore, anywhere in the world, whether we are in the rural, urban society, like what you mentioned earlier, we are undergoing tremendous transition now. So I really very thankful to you and the organizing committee for having this. In fact, we in Singapore are celebrating SG strengthening family this year. And I'm also writing a book on this. So hopefully I'll be working with you, contacting you and learn so much wisdom from you and from all the experts here. Thank you very much. Wonderful. My question is, in the digital era, in the era where our children now and the family is very much dependent on this, how do we bring back? And also this idea of a very loose definition of family now. I mean, 2 men can be a family, 2 women can be a family, surrogate children, and so on and so forth. How do we face these challenges? And I really love the idea of spirituality, because that you anchor, we have to anchor ourselves, whatever religious denominations that we belong to. So thank you again, Prof. Maybe you can just help us to enlighten a bit about the future challenges. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I'd love to talk with you, Bibi, forever. You'd just be so much fun to talk with. And you're an old lady, it sounds like, and I'm an old man, so we have a lot in common that way too. You know, we started doing the study in Australia in 1998, and that was such a wonderful experience for Nikki and me. We just basically advertised, if you live in a strong family, and then we said, we're not going to define what that means. We're not going to define the structure or anything. We're going to let you define what strong family means. We just said, if you live in a strong family, contact us at the University of Newcastle in Callaghan in New South Wales. And we got hundreds of phone calls and letters from everywhere in Australia, all kinds of people, all shapes, sizes, colors. As I mentioned, they came in 31 different structures, 31 different structures of people that said they loved and cared for each other. And who are we to say that that's bad? So we went into it open-minded, and Nikki and I, and we took our daughter Erica, who was 19 at the time. We went to a place called Raymond Terrace It's a suburb outside of Newcastle, to meet our first strong family. We knocked on the door, and an old gentleman came to the door, and I was, at the time, I was about 55, and this guy was about 70. And he said, "Hi, I said, you contacted us, and so we've come to talk with you about your strong family." And so he invited us in, and Nikki and I and Erica, age 19, walked in, and he says, "Come sit down here at the dining room table." So we sat down in the dining room of this old man's house. And he says, "I've got tea." And we thought, that's lovely. And so he says, "I'm going to go out in the kitchen and make tea." And I said, what was his name? Alan. Alan, I said, where's your family? Where's your family? Who are the members of your strong family? Because there was nobody in the house. It was empty. It was quiet like a tomb, like a tomb. And he said, he came in and gave Nikki tea and Erica tea and me tea, and he gave us some bickies, some biscuits, as the Aussies say. And he said, he sat down, and I said, "Who's your family?" And he says, "Well, I have 4 children. One lives up in Darwin on the top end, and one's out in Perth, and one's up at Brisbane, and one's up in Broome, I think, up in Northwest Australia." I said, "Any of them living around here?" "No, my kids and the grandkids, they're all scattered to the wind." And I said, "Well, who else is in your strong family?" And he said, "My wife, Joan. I love her dearly." And I said, "Well, where is she?" And he said, "Well, Joan died of cancer 7 years ago. She had breast cancer and she died." And I looked at Nikki, and Nikki looked at me, and Erica looked at me, and we thought, this is going to be very interesting. And we said, "Well, you live in a strong family, but you don't have a lot of connection with your kids." "Well, they're very busy. They're going to college, and they got jobs, and they got kids. And no, I don't talk to them very much." Well, I say, "Well, who are you connected to emotionally?" And he says, "Oh, Joan. I talk to her every day." And he said, "When I was making tea a second ago out in the kitchen, I was talking with Joan as I made tea and got the bickies together for you guys." And the question becomes right immediately, is Ellen crazy? And the answer was obviously to Nikki and to me and to Erica, no, he's not crazy at all. He lost his best friend to breast cancer 7 years before. He was still in love with her. They were still emotionally connected. She was still with him in his heart forever until he dies, and maybe after he's dead. And they had a strong family. And how else could we look at that but not say, this is a strong family? Could we say, no, it's not a strong family because they have to be alive, or you have to have a wife who's alive to be a strong family, or you have to have this, or you have to have that, or you have all these other requirements. And everybody who defines family in the world has a different definition. And so the people who live in these families ought to have some say over who their family is and whether it's a strong family or not. And I don't think it can be defined by saying that the family structure defines it. What's the best example of this? Let me tell you about a family. I'll tell you about 2 families that I know personally. I've worked with these families. I know them very well. One family has got a father and a mother and 2 young girl children. Okay, a father, a mother, and 2 young girl children. That's one family. That's the structure. Another family has 2 mothers and 2 girl children. Okay, now which is the stronger family? Which is the better family? In the eyes of God, which is the better family? And this is a trick question, so don't try to answer it. And here's the trick. And these are two true families. The family with the father and the mother and the two girl children are going through a divorce because the father was having sex with the 8-year-old. Now the other family with the two mothers and the two young girls love each other, care for each other. The two young girls are doing well in school. The two mothers have good jobs. One's a social worker and one's a teacher. And so if you look at those two families from a very traditional perspective, it's from a structural perspective, it's obvious that the mother and the father and the two kids is better than the two mothers and the two daughters. But if you look at it from a more important view, from the actual love and care inside the family, you come to a very different conclusion, like I did. And so I came to believe 30 or 40 years ago. See, the US has been going through these controversies for 50 years. We've been fighting about these things. We have fought and fought and fought and hated each other and yelled at each other and acted terrible toward each other over these issues. And to me, it's sad because we've worn ourselves out. We've gotten nowhere with the fight, and we've missed the point that a healthy, happy family hasn't anything to do with structure or what kind of box you put in it at all. It has to do with something that's harder to measure. It's harder to get down deep into and understand. It's easy to say, oh, you're this or you're that. In the US, we say, you've got brown skin. You're not as good as I am because I'm white. That's a game we play here all the time. Or you've got black skin. You're not as good as I am because I'm white. That's stupid, but we do it all the time in America. And we still fight about this, but it's not the structure. The structure of the family tells you nothing about whether they love and care for each other. To understand that family, you've got to sit down with that family for a long time, like we sat down with Ellen in his dining room to understand what was going on. We spent a long time that afternoon with Ellen, and he had a lovely family. And who would we be to say he didn't? Who would we be? And so I think that's where we are in the US. And I see that happening in Indonesia. You've got the same arguments and going around in the same circles we're going around in the US. And I see that in China, they're going around in those circles. I see that in Greece. I see that in Germany. Wherever I go, we have these battles over what's a good family. But please be more thoughtful about it. And before you make judgments about a family, get inside that family, sit down with them over bickies and tea and talk with them for 3 or 4 hours and then see what you think, see what you think. I'm sorry for talking so much, Bibi, about that question, but that is a question that's tearing countries apart all over around the world. I see it all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Dufresne and Ms. Vivian, for the question. We may move on to the next question. There is Mr. Bagus Margarana in the chat box. I will read the question. Dear Mr. Professor Dufresne, thank you for your explanations. I really appreciate it. According to your research, did you do it in free culture perspective, or you have any kind of information based on any culture that uniquely can be good data to be founded?
Now, come again with that. I don't know if I understand precisely what the question is quite yet. So help me some more.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Maybe can you do it in Bahasa so I can translate it, Mr. Bagus? Mr. Bagus, are you there?
Sorry, may I speak directly
Sure.
to you, Mr. Dufresne?
Yes, please.
Can you please activate your camera, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Dufresne and Miss Aziza.
I'm sorry if my question is maybe not directly understand for you, Mr. Different. But my question is, do you have any do it in this research in agriculture? I mean, do you have any? I mean, you can you take the many data in every place that maybe any has any different culture, right? Is there any maybe you do it in just in one big picture and uh, don't have any perspective in one or maybe a specific culture, or you just combine any kind of culture and then in every and it can be support your research and can be uh, assumed as your uniquely data can be found in your research. That's the question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful question, and it's a really important question, and it's a difficult question to know how to ask it. But basically, I think what I hear you saying is, how do you compare cultures? You know, how if I wanted to understand Indonesian culture and compare it to American culture, how do you do that? The cultures are so different with language and customs and everything else. And then the cultures are so complex. Indonesian culture, how many languages do you speak in Indonesia? Hundreds? It's just enormous. You have 5,000 or 6,000 islands. So how do you even do something like this? It's a crazy thing to want to do, try to do. And it's impossible to compare cultures, like it's impossible for me to compare myself to you. You know, how do we compare each other as individuals? So you have to be a little crazy to try to do this work. One thing I always do is I always work with people from the other cultures. You know, I'll never do a study of any country or culture by myself. That would be just crazy presumptuous. And so I'll always work with a team. And then also, if you make a series of questions, an instrument, you know, an interview, a series of questions, a survey, a written survey, you can't give the same survey to every culture, you know. So when I was started to work with the Indonesians in 2016, they said, well, do you have a questionnaire about family strengths that we could translate into Indonesian? And I said, no, I won't give it to you. I will not give it to you because it doesn't work. I'd say, I'll give you ideas, but I want you to go out and talk with Indonesians, talk with lots of Indonesians about their strengths. And so the Indonesians, they'd have focus groups and they'd get together and they'd talk about what's the strengths in your families. And then the researchers would write all these down. And then they could develop an Indonesian family strengths inventory that came out of the heart of Indonesian families. And so we cannot compare directly Indonesian family strengths with their research inventory. We can't compare it to the American data because it's different words and different cultural ideas and all that. So what I'm saying, these ideas are very big and they're kind of amorphous, and they're almost things that you feel in your heart, but you can't put it into real tight data. And so that's a strength of this kind of research. It's a strength, but also it's a weakness, but not much of a weakness, because you can't take 8 billion people and pour them into a jug and shake them up and make a family strengths inventory, because each culture is unique and each family is unique. Each and every family is unique. And I think I'm answering what you were asking about, because it's a marvelous question.
Yes, Mr. Different. Thank you very much. I understand very well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Ms.
Professor
Aziza.
Different. Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Bagus. Thank you for the question as well. So we may move on to the next question. We have Mrs. Aida Nur Hanafia. Nowadays, people often keep their gadgets in their hands so that they are difficult to stay away from it. Do you think gadget is one of the challenges families face to make quality time? And can we have quality time with family even though the gadget is on our reach?
Okay, and you're talking about technology?
Gadget, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh goodness. That's I'm sad to see that the culture wars are in Indonesia like they're in America too. They can separate us in our generations, can separate us in our families. And I think about that every day when I see technology. I see the disasters that come from technology, but I also see the possibilities. And so I've tried to, even though I'm 75 years old, I try to listen very closely to younger people. And I try to listen very closely and watch for new developments in the world, what is new, because there was a time, golly, 50 or 60 years ago when I was young. And when I was young, I was on the other side of the coin. I was on the youthful side. And our country in America at the time was torn apart by the Vietnam War. The young people were fighting the old people over the Vietnam War. And so in my generation, many of us were leaving America and going to Canada rather than go fight in Vietnam. And so I've seen these cultural battles from both sides now. I've seen it from the side of a young person, and now I've seen the cultural battles in America. We have battles between the older people and the younger people today too. And so I try to live in both worlds as much as I can and try to understand what my grandson, Cole, he's 20 years old, what he's going through. And try to be open to what he's saying. And so I think we can learn to find good things with technology, and we can find terrible things with technology too. I've found in my own life personally, even though I'm older, I use technology all the time, and it's made a tremendous difference on our research. So I think we can use it for good purposes and for not so good purposes. And I'm not sure if I answered that question well, but that's a starting response anyway to an important question. Any follow-up on that maybe or not?
Sure thing. Probably for the questionnaire, maybe we can follow up for further explanation if still have further question regarding the response on the gadget problem with the family. Unfortunately, we already reached the end of the session. Maybe it's already late, Professor Dufresne, in the US, right?
Well, it's getting that way, but look, we never have enough time to talk about things. So if there are people that want to talk to me,
Yeah.
they can look and get my email address and send me an email. I like to get emails from Indonesia and from South Africa, and I get emails all the time from everywhere. So I may not be able to answer in 10 minutes, but if I get an email, I promise I'll answer and try to talk a little bit with folks. So I would enjoy that.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very wonderful to hear your explanation, and we're looking forward to have more discussion with you through emails. So for all the participants, if you have further question for Professor Dufresne, you can email him as we share the email in the presentation before, or you can ask the committee if you haven't read the emails. Okay, once again, thank you very much, Professor Dufresne, for the presentation. We may move on to the next session. So I will give it back to the host.
And you won't feel bad of me if I go take a snooze now, being an old man and it's getting late. I'm going to sneak away.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dufresne.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Dr. Jan Dufresne, BAMA PhD, for your presentation, and Mrs. Noraini Azizah, MA Psych, for guiding the presentation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the next speaker, Mrs. Dr. Fitri Arianti Abidin, MC Psikolog, from Universitas Pajajaran, Indonesia, and Mrs. Indah Damayanti, MC Psikolog, from Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau. By moderator, Mrs. Dini Afriani M. Apli. Mrs. Dini Afriani M. Apli is a proud mother and wife. She is the alumni of the University of Queensland, Australia, for her master's degree in applied linguistics. She is now aimed to pursue her next degree in Shalba. She is currently teaching English in some universities in West Sumatra, Indonesia. She is also a translator, interpreter, and transcriptor in English Indonesia. For Mrs. Dini Afriani M. Appling, time is yours.
Thanks for the time. We're going to move to the next speaker, which is Dr. Fitriani Arianti Abidin, MSci. She's a psychologist from Pajajaran University, Indonesia. Briefly about her. She is an assistant professor and the head of the Center for Innovation and Psychological Research in the Faculty of Psychology, Pajajaran University, Indonesia. Her interest in studying family relationship is in line with her passion as a clinical psychologist who focuses on couple and family counseling currently. Her research project focuses on parenting and parenthood in families with adolescent children. And the next speaker is Ms. Indah Damayanti, MSci. She is a psychologist. She's also a lecturer at UIN Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau. So I have to read these all together because it's the parallel Zoom meeting. She was born in Pekanbaru, October 23rd, 1984. Her hometown is Pekanbaru, and she lives currently in Brisbane City, Queensland, Australia. Her job experiences are lecturer at psychology school at UIN Suskario 2015 till now. She is also a psychologist at International Organization for Migration, or IOM, 2014 to 2016. She's also a psychologist at Hospital Shafira Pekanbaru, 2014 to 2016. And so now let's invite our second speaker, Dr. Fitri Arianti Abidin, MSci, a psychologist from Pajajaran University, Indonesia. Please, during her speech, mute your speaker, and we're going to give you some time later to ask a question. Time is yours, Ms. Dr. Fitri Arianti Abidin, MSci.
Thank you. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here today. I also would like to express my gratitude for the committee for this beautiful conference and invited me to speak in this session. For Winsuska, a happy anniversary. We hope the collaborations between Universitas Pajajaran and Winsuska can continue in the next year. Okay, so actually, we have learned much from Professor John Dufresne about the family strength. What I may bring to the table in my session now is quite different. Yeah, it is about the parents-adolescents harmony and adolescents well-being, uniqueness in the Indonesian context. I believe that the word uniqueness is quite strong and it should be supported by the data as well. So aside presenting my finding of my research, I also would like to invite all of the floor to, at the end of my presentation, to share your experience about parent-adolescent harmony and adolescent well-being. So that's why I put the question mark at the end of the title of my presentations. So we can have a discussion to formulate the uniqueness in the Indonesian context. Because as Professor John Dufresne explained, that culture always plays a significant roles in human behavior, also in family and in society. So I will begin my presentations with an invitation for all of you to do some contemplations. That's what I did when the committee reached me and invited me to speak in this session. When they informed me about the theme of this international conference, I thought, wow, this is a beautiful and a strong theme. Let's take a look at the 3 keywords of the theme of this international conference. The first one is harmony. Harmony means different elements works together and create something beautiful. Yeah. So the theme in this conference is harmony in society. And in my presentations, I will narrow it down to the harmony in family relationship. The second keywords is a family. We know that in Indonesia, family not only important, but also sacred. Yeah? I can show you how sacred family in Indonesian context by see that there are so many rituals we have in Indonesia to celebrate every milestone in the family. For example, if you want to begin a family, there's an engagement celebrations, and then when you get married, you have siraman, you have pengajian, yeah, and then you have a religious ceremony, and you have a family ceremony, and when the wife get pregnant, they have a 4-month pregnancy ceremony, 7-month pregnancy ceremony, yeah, akikah, and there's so many rituals in our culture that celebrate every milestone in the family. It shows that family is really important, yeah, and become the center of our life in Indonesia. And the third keywords is positive values. Yeah, so I will specifically talk about the well-being values, especially the adolescents' well-being. So here is the outline of my presentations. I will talk a little bit about the importance of adolescents' well-being, and I will talk about parenting adolescent in the Indonesian context. I will share my experience as a clinical psychologist who work on family relationship problems. And then I also, of course, will share the findings of my studies about that. And then I will also explain to the audience the framework I use to see the phenomenon. Yeah, I use the parenting dimensions and the adolescent's basic psychological needs framework. And then we will discuss about the uniqueness in the Indonesian context, and also we will close with the discussion about the further study. Now, here is the well-being. As we know, along with the rise of positive psychology movement, well-being become one concept that has been studied from all over the world. Either subjective well-being and psychological well-being. There are so many studies that have proved in conclusions that well-being is really important as a goal of our life. And the research in well-being, not only in adult nowadays, but in all of the stage of human life, also in adolescence. So to conclude, adolescents with well-being tend to be physically and mentally healthy. Of course, mental health is the goal which psychology want to achieve. And well-being experience in adolescence tends to remain in adulthood. So it is really important to pay attention and to improve adolescents' well-being so we can have an adult well-being too. Now, next, I will share my experience, my observations, and my experience, and also the result of my study about the parenting adolescents in Indonesian context. First, we know that Indonesians is the most populous Muslim population in the world. Yeah. When I conducted a study about the parenting goals a few years ago, it is clear that the parenting goals of Indonesians parents is really linked with the religious value. Yeah, they want their children to be soleh or solehah, yeah, following the religious values. Yeah. And in adolescence, they are dramatic changes. Yeah. The literature states that parenting in adolescence is quite challenging because the adolescent face a really drastic changes, not only in physical, but also in every aspect of their development. In Indonesia, the puberty is not only viewed as a physical milestone, but also viewed as a religious milestone. Yeah, when the adolescent reach the puberty, they become responsible for the sins and reward from God. Yeah, and it will decided the afterlife the afterlife condition. Yeah. So I found that Indonesian parents quite anxious about this. Yeah. They want to make sure that their adolescent children have hold a strong religious values. Yeah. So the demands is quite hard for their adolescents to follow and or to do the religious activities or to express the religious experience. Yeah, for example, using the jilbab for girls. Now, so I found that these religious values can potentially become a source of conflict between parents and adolescents. Yeah, that's the first. The second is the harmony and filial piety. Yeah, so in Eastern culture and also in Indonesia, children like representatives of the family. So they are not allowed to express something really different from their family values. Yeah, so they have to like carrying the family identity. Yeah, in bahasa Indonesia, even the 10 years old boy really want to make their parents happy, ya, ingin membuat orang tua saya bangga, gitu ya, ingin membahagiakan orang tua saya. Ya. It is a very strong value in children. So when they have disagreement with their family, yeah, or with their parent, sometimes they feel that it is not make my family proud or happy. Yeah, so it's like a burden. Yeah, and it also become a source of a potential source of conflict. And the third one is hierarchical structure. You know that Indonesia is really hierarchical structure. Yeah, the younger have to respect and have to obey their parents. Yeah, usually the parents say that I know better than you. Yeah, parents know better than children, and it also become a potential source of conflict. Yeah. So what I want to say here is beside the nature of challenges with in parenting adolescents, yeah, Indonesian culture also have some color that potentially can make the conflict more, yeah, than the other culture. Here is my study this year. Yeah? This is about the conflict between parents and adolescents. Yeah, so we collect the data from 168 couples, parents and their adolescents, and we measure the frequency and intensity of the conflict. Yeah, as we can see here, for example, here getting up in the morning and bedtime. When we elaborate more, it is related to the morning prayer. Yeah, so the morning prayer become an issue in parents and child relationship. Yeah, and then talking back to parents become a source of conflict. Yeah, because parents see that as a rebellion, as they want to challenge the authority and the power of their parents. Yeah, even though from psychological perspective, we know that different opinion means that the intellectual capacity of the adolescents is rising, and it's a good sign. So here is the conditions of parenting adolescents in the Indonesian context. So when I study about the well-being in adolescents, I use the framework of basic psychological needs. Yeah. So Ryan and Desi states that every individuals, according adolescents, have three basic psychological needs. This basic psychological need, those three basic psychological needs, is a prerequisite to achieve well-being. Yeah. There are three basic psychological needs. First one is need for relatedness. So it is a need to connect it with other people and to have a quality relationship with other people. The second one is a need for competence. Need for competence means needs to face to have a self-efficacy that we can face the challenge. Yeah. So in Bahasa Indonesia, I always said it is like aku bisa. Yeah. I can do that. A need for autonomy is a need to make a decision. Yeah, to make a decision and to be an agency in our option. So there's three basic psychological needs. If those three basic psychological needs is fulfilled or satisfied, then the adolescents will experience well-being. Otherwise, if those three needs is not fulfilled, or even worse, frustrated, yeah, they feel lonely, they feel not connected with their family, they feel I can't face any challenge, and then or they feel I have no autonomy, they will suffer from ill-being. Yeah, for example, they will experience some mental health issue, like suicidal thought, depression, or any other mental health issue. So what is the relations with those basic psychological needs with parenting style? I use the framework of parenting dimensions from Skinner et al. 2005. So Skinner et al. Make an extensive review of many dimensions of parenting, and she summarized it into 6 core dimensions of parenting. Yeah, some of the scholars then categorize it as supportive parenting and thwarting parenting. Yeah. Supportive parenting consists of 3 dimensions. The first one is warmth. So warmth is like the expressions of love, yeah, approval, listening, yeah, acknowledgement, yeah. So warmth is about love, unconditional love and approval and affections. Structure is about the setting the boundaries that parents set for their children, and guidance from the parents how to reach or to obey the limitations. And then the third one is autonomy support. It is the support from parents to admit that their adolescents have their own opinion and their own feelings and their own voices. So if we relate the supportive parenting aspect with the family strength aspect Professor John Defren have represented, it is really connected. Yeah, so we can see here, if you practice the supportive parenting, then your family will be strong. Nah, the opposite of supportive parenting is thwarting parenting. It is the opposite of these 3 dimensions. Rejections mean disapproval and hostile or aggression. Yeah. For example, in something like rejection, ya, like kamu anak yang tidak berguna, ya, you are not useful, you always make me sad, something like that. Yeah. Chaos is an opposite of structure, yeah. So there's no limitations. So the adolescent don't know the rules in the family. Sometimes the parents angry when they when the adolescent play the game, but sometimes they okay with that. So the adolescent don't know really what limitation they should follow. Yeah, the rules. There's no rules in the home, and coercions is the force. Yeah, the force from parents to follow what the parents think best without acknowledge the different opinion from their adolescents. Yeah. So if the parents practice supportive parenting, so the basic psychological needs will be fulfilled, and then it will lead to the psychological well-being of the adolescents. On the contrary, when the parents practice thwarting parenting, the adolescents will be frustrated and they will not reach the well-being. Yeah. So here is the conceptual framework. Yeah. So based on the theory, we can see here, as I have mentioned before, the supportive parenting style will satisfy their adolescent basic psychological needs, and it will lead to the emotional well-being. Yeah. And on the contrary, thwarting parenting will influence the basic psychological needs frustration, and it will lead to the emotional well-being. That's the conceptual framework. Now, how is the empirical finding in Indonesian as adolescent? Yeah, yeah. Here is the finding from Indonesian adolescents. Yeah, we can see here that some of the conceptual framework is confirmed, but the unique things, the most interesting thing is here. Yeah, here the thwarting parenting style is positively related with basic psychological need satisfaction. Yeah, so if we remember, thwarting parenting style is rejection, chaos, and coercion. And it is related to the basic psychological need satisfaction. Yeah, it is different from other the finding from other researcher which conducted it in the Western culture. Yeah. So what is the when I look closer into the data analysis, yeah, the correlation, we can see here that the coercion, yeah, coercion, the correlation between coercion with other variable is quite unexpected. Yeah, for example, here coercion have no significant relation both with emotional well-being or emotional ill-being. Yeah, and in my other study, coercion closely related to the structure. So we can see that in Indonesian parents, when they set the rules, it is along with the coercions. Yeah. Now, so personally, my interpretations from to my finding is that thwarting parenting is not that harm for Indonesians children. Yeah, so I think if we relate it to the family strength, maybe it is the potential Indonesian family or Indonesian parents and adolescent relationship have potential strength, yeah, because the thwarting parenting is not that harm in Indonesian context. So here is my explanations, yeah, about the uniqueness I found in my study. That we know that Bornstein has stated that parenting is heavily driven by culture, yeah, not only parenting, also family and all aspect, all behavior aspect is heavily driven by the culture. And the parenting goals between Western culture and Eastern culture is really different. In Western culture, the goal of parenting is to educate children to become outspoken, yeah, self-reliant, capable, and self-determined. So they will be proud if their adolescent have decided something that different with them. Yeah, it means they already reach the individuations. But in Eastern culture, yeah, including in Indonesia, the parenting goals is to make the family proud. Yeah, that's why we can found high expectations and control from the parents. Why the parents have to control their children? To make sure that their children follow the cultural and the religious values that parents hold. Yeah? And here, children obedience is also important, yeah, for Western culture. From my experience as a clinical psychologist, when children have a conflict with their parents, yeah, even their adolescent, I mean, when they are in adolescence or adult children, it is really hard to solve, yeah, because when they have disagreement with their parents, they angry with their parent, but they couldn't express it, and they like self-reflection, or I do something wrong that makes my parents angry. Yeah, it's like conflicted. And then for the coercion here, some literature have mentioned that coercion have a less negative or even non-existent effect of controlling parenting in Eastern Asian sample. Yeah? And then that's why it is less pressuring and more favorable meaning in controlling parenting. The interesting thing is Asian children likely to view parenting control as a concern or engagement. Yeah. So our interviews to the adolescents said that when their children, when their parents, in bahasa it's called mengomel ya, venting ya, to ask them, for example, to study hard or to do religious activities, they feel that they are loved, that their parents care about them. Yeah, so it is quite interesting. So from we already found that in Indonesia, the achievement of adolescents' well-being can be achieved by supportive parenting, yeah, by warmth, by structure, and by autonomy support. And then the finding also show that thwarting parenting, especially coercions, it's not that harm to our adolescents' well-being. What next? Nah, actually, my team has worked on developing the interventions to share these informations to the society, to the parents of adolescent children, and also to train the parents to practice that three supportive dimensions of supportive parenting. Yeah, so we developed 4 session of parenting psychoeducational. Each session consists of 3 hours, and there are some activities beside lectures and discussion. We also do a reflective activities that we ask the parent to reflect their relationship with their adolescents, and also we give some in between activities. Yeah, so in 1 week, then that can practice their skills to connect with their adolescents. Yeah, and it's quite heartwarming. Yeah, for example, when we talk about the love language, yeah, we believe that parents love their adolescent, and their adolescent also love their parents. But the problem is their love language often differ. So we ask the parents to ask their children, yeah, their adolescent, what kind of their behavior that make the adolescent feel loved. And the sharing from the parents is quite heartwarming. Yeah, they realize that love could be expressed in many ways, and in from not have to be fancy behavior, yeah? Not to be fancy and expensive holiday or vacation, for example, but it can be showed, it can be felt from the simple behavior. The problem is that they have to communicate it with their adolescents. Yeah? So communications, listening is the key to gain the harmony in the family between the parents and the adolescents. And when the harmony in family has achieved, the adolescents will be well-being, and that adolescent will bring this well-being value to the society. So it would be a beautiful conditions. And also for the further research, of course, abundance of reference has shown that not only in the Western country, but in the Asian country, coercion may harm for some aspect of adolescents development. That's why our project in this year is to investigate what kind of coercions, yeah, that harm or not harm to adolescents' well-being. Yeah, because there's so many terminology, something like psychological control, yeah, and the other terminology. I hope I can share the result of my finding on another occasions. So this is the end of my presentations. So here is my family picture. As you can see, I have 3 adolescent children and 1 pre-adolescent children. So I try to walk the talk, yeah, to create the harmony in my own family. And my message is, Usually, we attempt to achieve harmony in our family by ignoring our adolescent psychological needs and well-being. Yeah? To keep the harmony, we tend to ignore their voice. Yes, such action seems to be successful in providing peaceful situations in our family. But remember, peaceful is not the same with harmony. Yeah. So the true harmony in the family is achieved when we care about and maintain the psychological needs and well-being of all family members. Yeah. So we have to care the psychological needs of the adolescents. We have to care the basic psychological needs of us as the parents. Yeah. And we have to pay attention to that, and we have to work together to fulfill those psychological needs, so the well-being of all the family members, including our adolescents, will be achieved. That's my presentations. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. If you are interested in my presentation, if you want to collaborate, please don't hesitate to reach me in my email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abidin. That was a very interesting speech from you, a very deep, relatable situation in Indonesia, the uniqueness. Also, I see some relevance with the previous speaker from Professor John Dufresne, that it is not about what we used to do, but about how do we understand. It is not about blaming, but about understanding. We're different in every aspects in our life. We love different colors, we love different food, we have different hobbies, etc. and etc. So that's how we understand, that's how we try to live together, that's how we understand them and not to fight with each other. So I see the relevance between you and the previous speaker. That is so amazing and so marvelous. We're going to wait for the respondents from our audience, but before that, we would like to call the second speaker, Mrs. Indah Damayanti M. Sai, she's a psychologist from UIN Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau. As I mentioned before, she was born in Pekanbaru, October 23rd, 1984. Her hometown is in Pekanbaru, and she is now currently live in Brisbane City, Queensland, Australia. She has many job experiences, started from the current one. She's a lecturer at psychology school at Winsuskario 2015. She also is a psychologist at International Organization for Migration, IOM, 2014-2016. She's also a psychologist at Hospital Shafira Pekanbaru, 2014-2016. She also is a psychologist at Hospital Awal Bros Pekanbaru 2012-2014, and she also is a psychologist at NGO Pulih Jakarta 2011. So many experiences that she got. So we would like to invite our second speaker, Mrs. Indah Damayanti Ansai. Time is yours.
Thank you, Miss Nini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ms. Dini, as a moderator, for introducing me. Okay, can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes.
Okay, you can start to share the screens. While doing so, I will want to send a gratitude for the committee, UNSUS Riau, and happy anniversary, of course, for our beloved faculty of Psychology, UNSUS Riau. And good morning for the audience in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. And it's good to see you, my beloved college and students in UNSUS Riau. And good noon, my colleague in Australia. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, also Professor John. She's already not here because he needs sleeps early. And I also heard that the audience today is also from Singapore, Malaysia, Pakistan, and UK. So thank you for joining us today. So as a third speaker, I represent the host, Faculty of Psychology in Riau. We'll talk about resilient individual toward a mentally healthy society. The first speaker, Professor John Dufresne, already talked about strong family around the world. And just before, Dr. Fitri from UNPAD has talked about parenting and adolescence. So relationship between the parents and their adolescents in Indonesia context. Then my talks will be more in individual context and more local context. So the problems of mental health in Riau, and what can we do? What can we do to improve Riau individuals to be more resilient individuals, so we can have a mentally healthy society in Riau? Next slide, please. So here's the agenda for my talk today. First, I will talk about definition of mental health, and then biopsychosocial aspect of individual, how the individual will connect and affect their world, and also mental health problems in Indonesia, just a little bit, and move to mental health problem in Riau. And we will see the problems from the one perspective is resiliency aspect. We'll discuss about protective factors of resiliency, and then how to be a resilient individual. Okay, let's start the talk. So mental health. According to World Health Organization, mental health is the conditions in which individual realize his potentials, he or she able to cope with the pressure of life, to work productively, and to contribute to his community. Mental health holds an important role in human health. WHO said that there is no health without mental health. So can continue the second slide, please. Okay. One more click. Thank you. Okay, so there is no health without mental health. These statements from WHO emphasize the importance role of mental health in our health. So a person cannot be said to be completely healthy if he is not mentally healthy. And what are the characteristics of mentally healthy individuals? Next slide, please. Okay, I think it's delay. Okay, thank you. So the most distinguishing characteristic, of course, the absence of symptoms of mental health, no symptom of mental illness. So you can say that you're mentally healthy. And the second one is the adaptive. The individual can adapt well to his environment. So mentally healthy individual, he or she can adapt well to his environment. Respect and follow the rules that exist in the community where he is. Sorry. Okay, the second one, it is the affective personality. Sorry, the third one. It is the affective personality. He or she lives his life effectively. He utilizes his capacity and potential to work or study and perform daily tasks effectively. And the fourth one is integrated. Mentally healthy people are integrated between their thoughts, their feelings, and behavior. What he thinks and feels is in line with his behavior, not contradictory. So simple says, we could see mentally healthy individuals is not suddenly like angry or crying for no reasons. They can collaborate, they can integrate what they feel, what they talk in line with their behavior. The principle of health cannot be separated from the mental health. stems from the biopsychosocial key of humans. We can move to the next slide, please. Okay. This biopsychosocial aspect of humans see that human cannot be seen from only one aspect. For example, like psychological aspect only or biological aspect only. We need to understand humans' behavior from biological, psychological, and social aspect. So it is in. Oh, I cannot move this cursor. Okay. Here's the words aspect, including in social system, including society, community, and family. And in the person aspect, there are two kinds of systems, psychological system and biological systems. In psychological systems, including experience and behavior, including our cognitions, emotions, and motivations. So cognition is how we see the world, emotion is how we feel, and motivation, what drives us. And the other sides, we have biological systems, genetic and physiologically, including our organs, tissues, and cells. Biological system and psychological systems have reciprocal influence. So biological system will affect psychological system, and your psychological system will affect your biological system. This means when you have stress, for example, you will you might get fatigue, you might get dyspepsia, not feeling well in your stomachs, for example. And if something wrong in your biological systems, like you got headache or more serious illness like cancer, etc., someone could get depressed when they get cancer. And if we trying to see ourselves, you can check yourself. So when you feel sick, you will feel like you need someone to take care of you. So it means the biological system will affect the psychological system, and vice versa. The psychological system will affect the biological systems. And the person itself would change also the world. So our theme is how rational individuals toward the mentally healthy society. So if the individual is healthy, mental healthy, so we can change the society to be a mentally healthy society. Start from the family itself, and then community, and then the bigger one, the society. It has reciprocal relation. It interacts each other. The words could affect the persons. You know, that's some of the questions. One of the questions from the audience for Dr. Jones, that how is the social could change the family? Yes, the social values could change family. The value in the social could change the persons. But in the vice versa, also the person could change the world. The person could change his family, society, and community. Not change just these changes doesn't mean to change to be a different person, like Dr. John said, Professor John said before. You cannot change your father, you cannot change your mother, but change the way you interact to each other. So next, to change the personality, what it means, but the way you interact with each other, you can change the situation in the family, the healthy level in the family. Again, next slide, please. Mental health problem in Indonesia. So here's the diagram of business load in Indonesia. You can see that the most cause of deaths in Indonesia is cardiovascular disease. See, it is a bar chart, the three kinds of bar chart, the gray one, the red one, and brown one. The gray one, it is, you can see the DILY. So DILY is disability adjusted life years. DILYs are calculated from the sum of years of life less to the premature death. Premature death means died before average age of Indonesian dies. And the red one is YLD. YLD is years lived with disabilities. And the brown one is the death percentage. You can see that cardiovascular disease is the most cause of the deaths in Indonesia. What we need to highlight in here is this mental illness problems. You can see, you can compare with other chart in here, with other bar chart in here. You can see that the mental health problems, mental health diseases in Indonesia have a bigger than compared to others, have a bigger percentage of YLDs, years lived disabilities. So what does this mean? What does this number means? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. No, before. Okay, thank you. So schizophrenia and severe depression, you know, this is the first serious mental illness, could cause higher disabilities and deaths, which is means 40 until 60% more likely to die prematurely than general population. So people with schizophrenia and severe depression is more likely to die prematurely, almost more than 50%, right? 50 to 60%, due to frequently overlooked physical health and problems such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and HIV infections. And don't forget suicides. So this is the most common death cause for severe depression, suicide. So this has a very serious, it is of course very serious things in Indonesia, right? So we cannot deny mental health is play important roles in health in Indonesia. Okay, next slide, please. Come to see to what happened in Pekanbaru, Riau. So this table is got from the Rumah Sakit Jiwa Tampan Mental Hospital in Pekanbaru. So these tables of visits at the mental hospital in Pekanbaru by education, this data is got from January to December 2021. We can see that the inpatients, patient that comes to mental hospital in Pekanbaru, 32.97% has educated. They go to the senior high school. They finish senior high school, 32.97%, and outpatient it is 28.84% for people who are finished their college, who got their high degree. This is the problem, right? So what happened with these young educated people? Okay, next slide, please. So today we'll discuss it from resiliency perspective. So that's the problems. So we try to see it from the resiliency perspective. Resiliency is the ability to constructively and positively adapt to enormous risks, changes, or negative events in our lives. Basically, resiliency is like a mechanisms that provide a buffer against future challenge. You know, buffer like a bumper if you have it in the car. So it is a mechanism that provides shield to make you able to against the future challenge in your life. Okay, more one click. One more click. Okay, thank you. So resiliency has three factors in here. We can see the resiliency from the adaptability, so the ability to adapt to our surrounding, the adaptability to go with it, what happened in your surrounding, and then the learning points. Learning is ability to find benefit from good and bad experience. So when bad things happens, you can try to find the benefit from it events. In Indonesia or Bahasa, we say mengambil hikmah from what is happened. And then the flexibility aspect. So flexibility is ability to adapt with changes. The only things that never change in this world is the changes itself. So we cannot deny changes in this world. We should learn and adapt with it in order to survive. So probably in Indonesia, using Zoom to have a webinar for in the last 3 years, is not common. It is common in USA actually, but it is not common for us to use Zoom to meet other person in the side, on the other side of the world using Zoom. But we manage it. We survive it. In 2020 and 2021, we start to, as a lecturer and as a student, we start to use Google Meet and Zoom to have a meeting, to have a lecture. Aside, we see each other in the class, and but because we cannot do it, we use the Google Meet or Zoom. So everything is changed, and the changes is not right for us. The changes will go for what they want. So in order to survive this world, we need to become a flexible person. So how can we have this resiliency? Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, man. Next slide, please. It is a lag or what? Okay. So the community have troubles. Okay, probably can show, and you can show the slides, but I'll try to continue my speech. Okay. The factor, the protective factor. Okay, thank you. The protective factor of resiliency. First, we see the protective factor of resiliency from the family and class relationship. So Dr. Fitri says about the parenting, supportive parenting. That is one factor of protective factor in the family. So there are positive attachment there in the family. They can give warm family surrounding for children. They will show the authoritative parenting. So and authoritative parenting is the parents give us the opportunity to make decision in our life. And also organized home environments. There are clear rules and regulations that should follow by all the family members, not only for the children, but also for the mother and father. And more click, enter. Okay, probably the signal is not quite good. Okay. When we're waiting, okay, next, and again. Okay, thank you. So the low level of conflict between parents is also one of the protective factors of resiliency in the family. So parents who can respect each other opinions, and if they have disagreements, so they agree to disagree, like Professor John said. So the parents do not show conflict, do not show quarrels in the family. So it could be produce a more resilient individual in the family. Next, please. Enter, please. We can show all the points. Okay, so I think this problem is the signal or something. Okay, we'll continue. And then, okay, the relationship with pro-social and obedient peers also is a protective factors from the family or the close relationship. So the children who have a relationship with the pro-social and obedient peers would be a more resilient individual in the future, resilient adult in the future. Hey, wait, one more, okay. So the last one is actually the sufficient socioeconomics. We cannot deny the importance of socioeconomics. However, like Professor John said, that rich family, it is not define a strong family. However, we still need sufficient economics to be a resilient individual, to be a resilient adult. Just put it basic needs that you can be a resilient adult. Okay, next please. Yeah, protect pressure from the society. So the schools that plays an effective role means schools that support the growth and the good characters values from the pupils, from the students, and then attachment to pro-social organizations. So we have a lot of pro-social organizations in Indonesia for the children, for the young adult, for adolescents. We have like Karang Taruna, Pramuka, etc. So to join that kinds of organization could give you a resilience, could give you a resiliency. And then living environment with a high sense of community. You can feel that you're part of this community and the community is you. So that's mean a high sense of community. And then high level of public safety means like such as travel regulations, or for example, the lockdown policy during the pandemic. It is a good public safety. It is what makes us more safe from the COVID back then, because we do the lockdown. And then the good public health. So public health centers, or in Indonesia we say puskesmas, could be a significant pillar of mental health for society. In some puskesmas in Java, they give a service for mental illness. I hope you can have it in Riau as soon as possible. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, and the most important protective factor for resiliency is coming from the individual itself. So having a good problem-solving skills, have a self-regulation skills, and positive self perspective. It is important. It is essential to get the resiliency. The resiliency, the problem-solving skill or self-regulation skill cannot be obtained like automatically, but it needs to be trained. For students, that it is not related. You're under your adolescent age, but it is not late for you to train it. to learn how to have a problem solving skill, or to learn how to regulate your emotions, your drive, your motivations. Do not don't too much like galau or baperan, yeah, moody. It's will help you to be more resilient person if you're not to put attention to something that's really engaging, gak jelas, yeah. So put your focus on the other things that's more positive. So positive self perspective, you can see that yourself is a positive and negative sides. You have a strength and weaknesses. You cannot deny that you not only have the positive side, but you also have the negative side in yourself. Try to see it in balanced way. Easy temperament as a child. So easy temperament child usually becoming more resilient adults. And then positive outlook in life. So to see there are always benefit in every hardship. And our belief and meanings of lives also contribute to make ourselves become a resilient individuals. A resilient individual sees the life optimistically. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. Now we know the protective factors of resiliency. Then what we should do to become a resilient individual? So first is connect with the family. Connect with the family, friends, and community. Even if you think that you are an introvert, try to connect with family and friends. Simply talk to them, especially when you are having a bad time. Things that you are not alone, even though feel you're alone, but you see the relatives, you still have a family and friends, and get connected with them. So it will help you to bounce back the bad situations. Avoid seeing a crisis as an insurmountable problems. So every crisis, try to see every crisis comes with solutions. It is not the end of the world. So just calm down and then you can find a solution. Third is accept that change is a part of life. Like I said before, the only thing that remains in this world is the changes itself. So accept these changes from probably for the new students in Faculty of Psychology in Riau, the changes between your being a senior high school student and move to Pekanbaru and go to the university. It is a big changes for you. So accept these changes. You cannot stay the same as a senior high school student. So go to uni and then you meet more people and start to learn a lot of things in psychology. And then moving toward life goals. Set a goal and go for it. Do not let yourself floating like a leaf follow the river stream. It is unnecessary to let yourself follow the streams. You decide what you want and go for it. So it means also make decision in life and use coping when you find a challenge in your way. Okay, next slide, please. Look for opportunities for self-discovery. Explore yourself, what you're able to do, seize the opportunity. Never say to yourself, I cannot do it. That's the key. And then keep a positive view of yourself. Yourself has strengths and weaknesses. See it in a balanced way. Do not to focus on just only on one side. See both of them. See the positive view, see the negative view, You know, that's the famous tagline that it's okay not to be okay. Yes, it is okay not to be okay. And accept it, accept your negative emotions, and then give your best to give your best to bounce back the situations. Seeing an event in perspective. Do not overgeneralize. If something bad happens, if something bad happens to you, it doesn't mean the whole of your life is sucks. Sorry, if not, doesn't mean that our life is bad. See in a perspective, and then keeping a hopeful outlook. Be optimist. The sun will still shine tomorrow. So you allow to feel sad and have a negative thoughts. Let yourself have it, and also let yourself have hope. Take care of yourself, fulfill your needs, and be aware of your feelings. It is like the last thing, but not the least. Yeah, do not neglect your emotions. Embrace them. You own these emotions. And when you get these negative emotions, take your time, take care of yourself, fulfill your own needs, and see it as a part of you. Do not deny it. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Finally, so we are all creatures of God and will not escape His decree. Allah already told us, every hardship there's an ease. Karena sesungguhnya sudah kemudahan itu ada, sesungguhnya sesudah kesulitan itu ada kemudahan, sesungguhnya sesudah kesulitan itu ada kemudahan. So believe in this, believe in this statement. That's our promise us. That if you have difficulties in your life, it is not forever. You can have a solution for that, and you can go forward for your solutions. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, let's just recover faster, rest stronger. Whatever happened to us in these last 2 years, and probably in the past years, and then in futures, give yourself a hopes and the opportunity to recover, and then you can rise stronger. So it is, yeah, the tagline is in line with Indonesians tagline for 17 Agustus in this year. So, but it is in line with the resiliency. So Indonesians, not only in Pekanbaru, not only in Riau, should be recover faster, rest stronger. So that's all for my talk today. Thank you for the attention. And when we can discuss in the question and answer part. So here's the reference if you want to learn more about the resiliency.
Thank you for our third speaker, Mrs. Indah Namayanti from Brisbane, Australia. And here we got our second speaker as well, Dr. Fitri Arianti Abidin. So now we are inviting the participants of this Zoom meeting to have any queries or questions or comments or whatever related to this Zoom meeting. You can raise your hand so that I can see you, or I can just simply read the question from the chat box. So first we got from Ms. Lita Edita. It is a question to Dr. Fitri. She said that we don't realize that we attempt to make harmony but ignore basic psychological needs. Can you tell us maybe one example case about that? Common happen in Indonesia. Thanks. Yes, Dr. Fitri?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Ibu Lita, for the interesting questions. I love the words "it takes to tango," yeah, to create the beautiful dance. Yeah. So when we have a relationship, yeah, we have to take into account the parties that involved in that relationship. Yeah. So if we only take into account parents' perspective, yeah, parents' goal, the relationship won't work. Yeah, it also applied for any other form of relationship. Yeah, for example, couple relationship or friendship. Yeah. So what we have to do is, as a parents, is the first simple step is listening to the voice of our children. Yeah, that's a very easy steps, but actually it's require a big heart. Yeah, a big heart, and also in psychological terms, big heart mean for cognitive flexibility, yeah, growth mindset, yeah, something like that. Yeah. You asked me about the example. Yeah, I will I will rise the 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 religion value that I have presented before. Yeah, nowadays many parents would like to admit it their adolescents to the Islamic boarding schools. Yeah, of course, in parents' eye, it is a perfect choice. Yeah, to make sure that their adolescent will become good. Yeah, will become better. The problem is, does it fulfill the adolescent basic psychological needs? Yeah. For example, when they are disagree with their parents' decision, do they feel hurt? Because when the parents didn't heard the opinion from their adolescents, it is a rejections. Yeah, the adolescent will feel that I'm not worth it to be heard by my parents. Yeah, it is something simple, but well, it makes a big difference. Yeah, for example, something like that. And then the autonomy. Yeah, for example, autonomy in the house is privacy. Yeah, for example, the room. Yeah, I'm quite sad. Yeah, when some parents said share a story about their adolescent children who ask their parents to knock, yes, to knock before enter to their room, and the parents said, hey, this is my house. You just this is my house, and it is my right to enter your room whenever I want. That's a violations of the autonomy. Yeah. So the children, the adolescent don't have a space, yeah, to express themselves. So I want to invite all of the parents here to, yes, it's okay if we read many theories about the parenting. Yeah, it is a good thing. But I think from Skinner dimensions, we already get the central point of parenting, and what we should do is to complete to make a contemplations of our relationship and practice it. Yeah, because if you communicate it with your adolescents, yeah, the behavior is so simple. For example, to fulfill the basic needs of relatedness. Yeah, for example, they only need to be heard, that only need to be accompanied while study. Yeah, so one of the adolescents said that he feel loved when he do his homework and his mother stay in the same room with him. So something simple like that, or when his mother brings the food from the meeting, yeah, from the mother office, because she think that, oh, my mother remember that this is my favorite snack, so I'm worth it. Yeah. So it's really simple, but you will not what kind of behavior that right for fulfilling your children's basic psychological needs if you don't ask them, and if you don't listen to their answer of your questions. I hope it's quite clear, Ibu Lita.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fitri. That was such a lovely answer, so relatable. And probably we could simply just give it a try. Easy and simple and warm. So many thanks for you. Next, we got question from Miss Diana Elvida to both Dr. Fitri and Mrs. Indah. May both answer that or take turn. The question is, it is very interesting that the highest rate of people who seek mental health surveys were in productive age, adolescents and young adults. Does it indicate that parents have big problem in raising their children? What can parents do, since parenting is not only about sharing the good values in family, but also how to integrate the values into the community and society? So whose turn? It could be Miss Indah Damayanti or Dr. Fitri. Time is yours. Both of you are given time to answer this.
Maybe Bu Indah will answer first.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your time. So probably Dr. Fitri will add more explanation on this. So what can parent do, since parenting it is not only about sharing good values in family, but also integrative health in the community and the society. Yes, it is. So the problems in why these young adults go to visit the mental health service in Pekanbaru is a young and adolescents individuals. It is big. In one side we can see the roles in the family itself. They're probably not strong enough to develop a strong individuals to the society. So like we see the protective factor of resiliency comes from the family itself. So when we see a lot of young adults and adolescents go visit mental health institutions, probably it is because in the family itself they have bad interaction. They poor relationship between their parents, like high conflicts in the family. There are no rules in the family. There are no supportive from parents to the children, and also they in the society, their community, probably like their neighborhood, they see same things from the other family. A lot of other adolescents and a lot of other young adults have the same situation in their family. That's why these problems arise. So for the parent's perspective, probably Mrs. or Dr. Fitri will explain better.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Indah. Ya, I'm agree with Ibu Diana, ya, that nowadays we found the higher rate of adolescents, ya, in my practice to come to my practice and share their problem. Ya, I want to see it not only in negative perspective, ya, that adolescents suffer from mental health issue, but also in a positive perspective. I can see that it is a sign of awareness, yeah, from the society, especially from the parents also, who acknowledge that their offspring have a problem and they need a professional help. Yeah. And related to the parenting, it is interesting that you said here that parenting is not only about sharing the good values. Yes, the goal of parenting actually two. The first one is socializing. Yeah, so socializing is sharing, not only sharing actually, but internalizing. Yeah, so you just don't have to tell your adolescents. Because if you only tell you have to do this, you have to do that, they already know. Yeah. But you have to internalize why you have to do this, why you have to don't do that. Yeah. And of course, there's a big difference between sharing or speaking, yeah, with internalizing. And then the second task of parenting is individuations. So we have also give a room for our children to be the best version of their self. Yeah. So for example, they as related to Ibu Indah presentations, we hope that our adolescents have a resilience, but how they can reach their resilience is different with us. Yeah. For example, for coping stress. Yeah. Maybe we as a parents have more onto religious-based coping strategies. Yeah, if we face stress, we pray and we feel relief. Our children, our adolescents, maybe have a different way. Yeah, so we don't have to push and force their and judge our adolescent to go into the same or using the same form with us. Yeah. So I think to integrate the values in the community and society and to internalize the value can be done by discussion. Yeah, and I think the most precious things in parenting now is time. Yeah, because when you have a talk with an adolescent, it maybe if you just tell something, it's only takes 1 minute, but if you internalize something, maybe it took 1 hour. Yeah.
Konsekuensinya apa dengan mereka melakukan itu?
Bagaimana Ibu? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I think it is for another speaker. Yeah. I hope my answer can satisfy you.
Yes,
Ibu Indah.
Thank you very much for the explanation.
Okay. So that's from
Bu Dini is still mute. You're still mute. Bu Dini, sorry, you're still mute.
okay. I'm sorry. Have you heard my voice? Okay. So that's the answer from our speaker both. Now we got another question from Ayu Regina. She thanks both Miss Fitri and Miss Indah for those marvelous insights about family. And I would like to ask you both, as a child, how to communicate to parents so we can gain those positive communication, as Professor John said that. But when we start to talk heart to heart with them and they talk, we actually patronizing them. We are not actually to be with them, so they get it wrong. So just like they always say they live longer than us, so they likely know more than us. What kind of way do we need to figure it out so we can reach the positive communication goal itself? So since Ibu Fitri has just answered, so I will give the first chance to Ibu Indah, and we will go to Ibu Fitri. Time is yours, Ibu Indah.
Okay, it is so related with Dr. Fitri talk, right? Supportive parenting that you need to listen to the adolescents. You need to time for the adolescents to talk to you as a parents, but it is not ideal life, isn't it? So it is not easy as a children or as an adolescents to talk with your parents. So if you have already tried, if you have already tried to talk with your parents heart by heart, in my perspective as a psychologist and also as a children's, uh, you are living different world from your parents, and you need to understand that we are communicate in different ways with our parents. What we talk about, like we already said, from our hearts cannot be touch our parents' heart. Probably because the different way of communications that we have, different ways of talks also that we have, and you cannot change your parents. What you can do, you can accept your parents, what they said. Yes, they said the true things. Yeah, they live longer than you, and you accept their value, you accept their perspective, their point of view. You try to understand it, and then if it is still there's no agreements between you and your parents, try to choose agree to disagree. But if it is need to have a make a big decision for your life, such as like choose your study and etc., you can give them proof, like prove with your behavior. If you choose what your heart says, you do it well. So you can prove to your parents that why I choose that. You saw it them. You show that why I do it. I have my own reasoning, why I choose it, why I have to do it. I have my own reasoning. I understand you. So the first you say that I understand you, what you mean, but I have my own reasoning. Here is my reasoning, blah 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 blah, and then give me time to do it, and then we'll see the results. It is not to have this proof is not to have, it doesn't mean to you like to prove like you are wrong and you're the correct one. It is not for that, but to see that you are a capable individuals, you are an adolescents that can decide for your life. However, you need to also understand your parents and give your reasonings, and yeah, do what your heart says. So that's from me. Thank you.
Okay, I think Ibu Indah have elaborated many things, yeah, on how the strategy on communicate with your parents. Yeah, I would like to elaborate a little bit more using the basic psychological needs approach. Yeah, because basic psychological need approach actually not only exists in adolescence, but it is in all of the individuals, including parents. So when you communicate with them, make sure that their basic psychological needs also fulfilled by you. Yeah. For example, the first one is the need for relatedness. Yeah. So when you express your disagreement with negative emotions, for example, yeah, with anger, of course they will feel threat. Yeah, they will anxious that the good connections with you will be broken. So if you want to communicate something with your parents, make sure that you are in the good state. Yeah, look for relaxed situations. Yeah, with your parents. Yeah, so their basic psychological needs in relatedness, it's not frustrated. Yeah. And the second one, the way you communicate with your parents also can be frustrating for their competence. Yeah, they will feel like, oh my God, I'm not a good parent, something like that. Yeah, so you have to pay attention to that too. Yeah, you can use the strategy from Ibu Indah. Yeah, it is very concrete. Yeah, that you mention that in some situations their suggestions is really helpful for you, but in these situations I need something different, and then you show them the fact. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Thanks, Ibu Fitri. And also thanks to Ibu Indah for the answer. Also thanks for the participants. I think that's the end of our discussion. We have already reached that. So again, we have already heard from our second speaker and our third speaker, and it is so related with the first speaker. So all of them are together, and I hope that it will bring some other parties who are interested in contacting to do further research or something else. So that's all, I think. Thanks, Ibu Indah, and thanks, Ibu Fitri, for your time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dr. Fitri Arianti Abidin, MC Psikolog, and Mrs. Indah Damayanti, MC Psikolog, for your presentation. And thank you to Mrs. Dini Afriani, M. Appling, for guiding the second and third presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Yusleni Tamuda, MSc, Vice Dean of Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, to the closing speech. Time is yours.
Thank you to the Master of Ceremony. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Professor John Different, Professor Emeritus of Family Studies, University of Nebraska, Lincoln, United States of America, even though he was already left us, because we are 12 hours ahead from America. It's already late night there. Dr. Fitri Abidin, MPC Psikolog, a lecturer at Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Pajajaran, Indonesia. Indah Damayanti, MPC Psikolog, a lecturer at Faculty of Psychology, UIN Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau. Currently, he is a PhD student at Central Queensland University, Australia. Vice Rector of UIN Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, the Dean of the Faculty of Psychology of UIN Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, UIN Imam Bonjol Padang, UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, and Universitas Pajajaran Bandung, all of the faculty members, lecturers, and all of our students, distinguished guests, participants of this international webinar from several countries. Ladies and good morning, approaching good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that during this international webinar, all of us have obtained a fruitful discussion and brilliant ideas on psychology areas by highlighting a theme on strengthen positive values in a family to create harmony in society. In this webinar, we have learned a lot from series session addressed by the recognized keynote speaker and other presenters who delivered interactively as well as shared their interesting presentation. Once again, on behalf of the committee and faculty members, we do thank you for delivering such important materials so that all of us can deepen our knowledge about the themes given. Furthermore, I would like to thank all participants who have joined this international webinar from various regions and backgrounds. I'm certain that every presenter has presented their valuable work experience and its application to develop further research on psychology areas. I sincerely hope that through their presentation and discussion afterwards, all of us can contribute to solving psychological issues as our concern so far. Although this is one-day international webinar, the process is not over yet. There are still some steps that should be done further. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I would like to thank all the committee members from UIN Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, UIN Imam Bonjol Padang, UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, and Universitas Pajajaran for the good collaboration in organizing this webinar and ensuring that it proceeded smoothly. I would also like to apologize for any inconvenience that you might experience during this one-day international webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a saying in bahasa Indonesia, ada perjumpaan maka ada perpisahan, which means when there is a meeting, then there will be goodbye. But I prefer to say see you and when I see you. I'm certain that you are all looking forward to getting back to your respective homes. So I thank you again for your participation and wish you all have a safe life. I do hope that we can meet you again in the coming international webinar. Thank you. Afa minkum, wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Dr. Yusleni Tangkuda MSG for giving a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the agendas represented today. Before we close our event, we will do a photo session. To all participants, please activate the camera. Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Universitas Islam Negeri Sultan Syarif Kasim Riau, Universitas Islam Negeri Imam Bonjol Padang, Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, and Universitas Pajajaran, thank you to be honorable guests, the speakers, the committee, and all the participants who attended the event from beginning to end. It has been our pleasure to host this event. Finally, from the bottom of my heart and representing all those involved in organizing this event, we do apologize for our mistakes. I wish you all a pleasant day and stay healthy. I am Hidayatul Azizah Ghazali MAG. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for all the committee. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.
Terima kasih panitia semuanya.
Terima kasih Bu Indah.
Sehat semuanya. Mua.
Terima kasih Bu Indah.
Good holiday.
Oh iya.
Bunda.
Terima kasih Bu Indah.
Terima kasih semuanya.
Terima
kasih
semuanya.
Sama-sama.
Bu Marisa masih ada nggak ya?
Bu Marisa.
Iya. Mr. John masih ada.